It's my honor, it's my pleasure, it's my privilege to welcome Edwin Perez to the show this afternoon, our special guest by request. Many of you asked me to bring him after you started hearing the music here on the show. Jose Madera in Madison, Wisconsin, was the one that shared the video with me, and he said, you got to get him on. And of course, we worked on it, and Edwin was so kind to say, I will be on with you. So, bienvenido a nuestro hogar, aquí mi humilde casa con el sótano donde tenemos el estudio de IJ. D es para Divina, que está arriba, mi esposa, y J para José. Y hoy Divina está arriba cocinando. Una amiga preguntó qué tiene en el menú. Arroz con camarones. Nuestra hija trajo langostas, así que imagínate. Habichuelas, me dice que va a hacer tostones también, como dicen en Ecuador, patacón pisado. Así que vamos a gozar. Pero de cualquier manera, Edwin, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
It is an honor, as I said, a privilege, and it's my pleasure to spend some time with you, to share your music with our fans, and for just this moment in time. But before we dive deeply into a lot of things, I want to ask you, how did this song come about? Because all of us are living through a pandemic, which is COVID-19, and now, in the last few weeks, we never imagined that the whole world would be standing in unison, supporting Black lives and Black Lives Matter as a consequence of George Floyd dying when a police officer put his knee on his neck. So please, how did you come up?
Oh, initially, thank you for having me here. Before anything, Jose, and thanks to your audience for allowing me and for requesting me to be part of the show today. It's a great honor for me. Initially, I had produced and recorded that tune on the Orquesta SCC. Somebody told me the other day, that's a prophetic tune, because I remember when you brought it out, brought it out as a single back in 2015, when the death of Eric Garner. So, fue algo que cuando yo vi, when I saw the visuals of the choking death of Eric Garner, that hearing that man's voice just seconds away from his death, yell out, I can breathe. It was a tremendous impact to my life. Mentalmente me causó un impacto tremendo, y me fui a acostar esa noche con I can breathe, I can breathe, I can breathe, y ya en la mañana nació la canción. Poco tiempo después ya yo tenía el concepto de lo que quería un Fender, un sonido de órgano Fender, la quería con trombones nada más, y pues la hice, y ahora hice un remix. Ahora cambié algunas cosas y saqué la canción otra vez como un sencillo. Canción de mi propiedad, la banda Orquesta SCC es de mi propiedad, pero ahora la saqué como un sencillo, aprovechando el que hace falta comida para el cerebro en estos momentos. Hay falta dirección y hace falta tener una voz que nos ayude a quejarnos de lo que está sucediendo, porque muchas veces we just want to vent. I prefer to vent with a song and not to vent in any other way.
Well, all of us, I think, play a role when it comes to civic disobedience. There are those who will be on the street. There will be those who will write.
No
There'll
doubt.
be those who will speak. There'll be those who will lead. There'll be those who will participate. And artists play a very special role, as we say, salsa con conciencia, salsa for social change. And it's ironic, as you say, but it says a lot about how the world works, right? That you would write this after Eric Garner died and his voice was heard, right? I can't breathe. And years later, we will see and hear the same thing over again, which means no change occurred during that period of time. Even though people hit the streets, it continued to be such that police could do what they did in the case of both Eric Garner and in the case of George Floyd. There's a song that you had recorded way back when, I don't say way back when, but before, where it starts off, donde dice, si la voz de una persona puede cambiar a un pueblo, unir un pueblo unido es capaz de cambiar el mundo, where you say where a voice of one person might unite a people, a united people can change the world, or is capable of changing the world. I believe very much that those voices, Eric Garner's and now George Floyd, are the voices that are uniting the world to change things from what was to what will not be in the future. At least that's what we're hoping for and that we're striving for. So you as a musician and a singer, when you say it's important to have music, canciones, that touch on our day-to-day, salsa con conciencia. Where does this inspiration come from? Because you come from old school sound. I mean, the sound of the band has always been, de calle, real urban. It's got that nice salsa dura. But the lyrics tell a different story. How did that come about?
I have to give credit to the music I grew up with. Mm-hmm. Yo era uno de esos muchachos que desde que era un niño, I was an aficionado of salsa. Salsa music for me, I thought I was like a curator, if you will, of what salsa is, because yo me pasaba el día entero desde que me levantaba en todas mis actividades. Tan pronto tenía una oportunidad con el radio, con el oído pegado del radio, escuchando salsa. Y tengo que darle crédito a la música de Tite Curet, que fue lo primero que yo oí con sentido, irónicamente, en la voz de una de las personas que musicalmente más admiro, que es Rubén Blades. O sea, yo escuché Plantación Adentro y esa canción me dijo algo. Yo tenía como 7 años, era un niño. Y me dijo algo. Y yo me quedé así el día entero pensando, sombras son la gente, sombras son la gente, sombras son la gente. Y después entendí, es que esa gente que está en la plantación no son gente para ellos, son sombras. Y la canción me trabajó, y el sentido de la canción, puesto con el sonido brutal de Willy Colón y Rubén Blades, pues caló tanto dentro de mí que yo nunca a esa edad pensaba que yo iba a hacer música. Pero yo siempre supe que si algún día yo iba a seleccionar un tipo de música que yo quería que me representara, iba a ser ese tipo de música.
Well, we've been playing Tite Correa Alonso this weekend, of course, because Las Caras Lindas, his version with Ismael Rivera, and then we played Miguel Senón yesterday, the MacArthur winning saxophonist, MacArthur genius saxophonist,
Tremendo.
His version. And then today we heard Gema and Pavel, and we heard Yubaire doing their version as well.
Yubaire, tremenda versión.
Yeah, and I've got a few more that I could play, but Tite, you're right. Tite is, he that poet was able to bring to life our lives and our history, but he did it in a way that when you heard it, you knew it was different than the typical songs that we do here. And then you mentioned Rubén, of course, who's another one of those poets. And so that was your inspiration. And when you finally started recording, and you'd record, albums with La Excelencia, but when you've done your 2 solo albums, La Voz Del Pueblo, there was a song on that captured my attention, and that was the one about Miguel. Talk a little bit about that song.
Miguel was born of me right on September 11th, sitting in my office when I used to work for ESPN, watching the monitors, watching the television. A few minutes after the towers were both, actually, a few minutes after the first tower was hit, ABC, because I was at the ABC building, and ABC had a news, or has a news bureau. We were watching ABC as they did a long shot of a fire truck crossing over the Brooklyn Bridge from Brooklyn into Manhattan. And they just followed that truck as the commentator was saying. At the time, it was Peter Jennings. Just he was narrating how fire engines from all different points of the city were coming to the aid of the World Trade Center, and the firemen that belonged to that engine that was closer to the World Trade Center. And as I saw that fire engine driving by into the smoke and into the fire, the last thing I could imagine was that just about a week after that, I was going to be walking, trying to reach the side of World Trade Center, which was still smoldering. And one of the things I got to see as I got a couple of blocks past Canal Street was a fire engine being hauled out by a 22-wheeler. And that fire engine was on the platform of the 22-wheeler, and it was squashed like plastic. It was a combination of debris and the melting of the heat. But I have never seen an actual full-size live fire engine, which is made out of course, metal. Just squashed. And at that point I said, wow, what about the guys that were at that fire engine? What about those guys that were crossing that bridge, hanging from the outside of the fire engine with only one thing in mind, trying to help save lives?
Right.
And from there, Miguel was born. I just imagined the life of one of the firemen that got up that morning, just getting ready, looking at his kids, looking at his wife, just getting ready to go to work for another day of work, not knowing that he would never get to see his family and his children again. And that's how Miguel was born.
Y todos somos hermanos. That's the message on that one. I love that story about Miguel. And when I first heard that one, I said, man, I had imagined in my mind that something along the lines of what you described would be the inspiration for that. But now that I heard it in your voice, in your words, it really hits home. Estamos hablando aquí con nuestro amigo Edwin Pérez, la voz del pueblo, que ha sido tan amable de acceder nuestra invitación para pasar una hora con nosotros. José Vázquez Cofresí, el compadre, está en sintonía. Dice que, y eso, que Edwin ha estado en 52 países y en frente de 100,000 personas y sigue de pueblo para el pueblo. Me recuerdo cuando ustedes tocaron aquí en Boston hace como 2 años, yo creo que fue, right? It's about 2 years ago. You played the summer out in the Esplanade, not the Esplanade, on the Greenway, on Kennedy Greenway. I remember y'all the gig was fantastic. The music, the band was just like popping. I have a picture, matter of fact, with both of you, and how impressed I was with your sound. So you have a question here. Mary Kent says, Edwin, ¿sigues viviendo en Nueva York?
Me salí del centro de la ciudad, pero estoy bien cerca.
Okay. Y entonces aquí la otra pregunta dice, thank you, José, for turning me on to Edwin Perez music, and thank you, Edwin, for joining us. Great music. Well, thank you for tuning in. I appreciate that you like it. Let people know that we're here. My dear friend Libby Shufro said it was a compelling story, the one about the origin of Miguel. So the inspiration when you were very young came from Tite Coral Alonso. Esa fue la inspiración como escritor, ¿no? Compositor. Y en la voz de Rubén Blades, cantando Plantación Adentro. Pero tú también desarrollas tu propio estilo cuando tú escribes canciones, porque no todas las canciones son de temas sociales, de amor y cosas así por el estilo. Pero hoy le estamos dando importancia a los temas con algún aspecto social, de conciencia. Me pregunto, y te pregunto yo a ti, Edwin, hoy en día, cuando estamos pasando por lo que estamos pasando, la pandemia de COVID-19 a un lado, Black Lives Matter por el otro lado, two things that have disrupted the world, not just the United States, but the world. One being the health pandemic, and the other being a public health as well, which is racism, and Black Lives Matter. So as a singer-musician, one who at least artistically expresses yourself by doing what you do, how do you find the nexus, the connection between what you're doing and the media that promotes music in whatever shape or form? Or are you finding yourself having to be more independent in getting your sound and your message out to the general public? And by that, I'm saying the way you got No Puedo Respirar wasn't that, radio stations all across the United States all of a sudden got a single and started playing it. It was your video hit and like fire. And you and I spoke offline before about how it's taken a while before people will be able to download it. Talk a little bit about how do you get your message out to the people?
Yeah, when I decided to do this on my own, I knew that I was not going to get mass support. Mm-hmm. I knew that I was going to follow my passion as opposed to follow the money trail. Mm-hmm. But it's something that brings a lot of satisfaction. And it is quite difficult for an independent artist. I'm an independent artist. Yo soy un artista independiente y es muy difícil que más allá de tu núcleo se oiga tu música. Por ejemplo, hay muchas personas que hoy me dicen, wow, tremendo número que acabas de sacar. No puedo respirar. Wow, Edwin Perez, o hacen un share. Edwin Perez acaba de sacar No Puedo Respirar. Este es el número que hacía falta. Gracias por escribirlo. En cierta forma, no estoy parafraseando lo que dicen las personas, pero me dejan saber que no sabían que ese número existía. Que ya yo lo había sacado con mi orquesta hace unos años atrás. ¿Por qué? Porque no tuvo la difusión que merece cualquier artista, que merecen todos los artistas, por lo menos, and I'm not gonna get political about it, por lo menos aquel artista que está creando algo nuevo. Hay muchos que están creando algo nuevo, sea que lo hayan creado ellos o sea que comisionen el trabajo de parte de otra persona, sigue siendo algo inédito. Inédito es inédito. My satisfaction is the vibe I get back from the few people that listen and enjoy it, and knowing that I can create something that appeals to someone's everyday life. That's payday for me.
It's the return of the investment in
and traveling.
You're investing, you're getting the return. But you know what, Edwin, I will say this. And, I've been doing radio. Next week will be my 45th anniversary. So I've heard a lot of music. I've heard a lot of singers. I've seen a lot. I've shared stage, a whole bunch of bands. I believe that there's always a group that within whatever number you want to pick, there are people who are looking for something, that's different than lo del montón. They're not necessarily looking for what's commercial. They're just looking for something that's quality and that they can relate to.
Right.
And I have found in the 21st century, because of the internet and because of technology, the fact that you can do things on your own. You don't have to, you don't have to wait for Sony Records to sign up Edwin Perez to do an album, because as an independent, you're doing it on your own. You find resources, you find who's going to do it, where you're going to record it, all that kind of stuff, and then you produce it and it comes out. I remember I went to La Casa Latina. I was in New York looking for your album, for the first album, La Voz Del Pueblo. And who was it? Victor. He says to me, he did only a few. He didn't do too many. Even though a lot of people asked for it, he didn't do too many. I said, well, I can understand why. It costs money to do it. But I said to him, if he comes by and leaves you here's my address, here's my phone number, call me. And that's what he did, Jose, listen, he bought some. I said, great, send me the copy. So that's how I got La Voz del Pueblo. But I understand, but at the same time, yo pienso that if you can amass in your concentric circle, because you were talking about a circle, right? You're thinking the first circle is your family and your friends, and then people who start hearing
there is a following. There's a following.
There's a good number of people who...
There's a good number of people who love what I do, and that gives me energy to continue to do it. So
there you go. That's what I was going to say.
There is people out there that enjoy it.
Trust me, there's an ecosystem that is supporting you, my friend. Trust me. And that ecosystem is going to grow. And I know I'll play a role. There are others who are watching this show who do music. They'll play a role as well, as far as getting this. So let me see something here. Let me see what that says. Mary Kent. She says to us, the two heroes, Ruben Blades, Tito Correa, both are superb. Good choices. Politics are good. That is what makes Ruben Blades. That's true. Yes. Actually, I watched the I Can't Breathe video last week, and it's so powerful. Yes, I saw it last week for the first time. And then over here, te dicen gracias, Edwin, por crear conciencia de lo mal que aquejan a la sociedad.
By the way,
yeah,
if I may,
yeah.
El video desde esta mañana está con los subtitles en inglés disponible desde esta mañana, que mucha gente me habían preguntado por eso.
Qué bien. So you heard that right here, where Edwin says that the video that's out of I Can't Breathe, it has the lyrics in Spanish. I'm sorry, in English, the subtitles in English for the lyrics of the song I Can't Breathe in Spanish, No Puedo Respirar. And let me see, this one's from Florida. Wall Street Corner Chronicles be available on CD. It is only Well, actually, no, it's available on CD now, because I got it on CD.
Yeah.
So let's talk about that one, Edwin.
Yeah, I ran out of CDs real quick on the Street Corner Chronicles.
I was one of the ones. Here's the album cover, just in case. This is the one we're talking about. Edwin,
yeah. Y lo que sucedió, what happened was that CD Baby closed their physical CD store,
mm-hmm.
and just as the pandemic hit, they closed the store, and I ran out of CDs. So
at the same time, perfect storm.
Right, a perfect storm. They will be back up. I've been waiting for a shipment for a long time from CD Baby. The same reason why No Puedo Respirar is not available for download yet is because they have issues due to the pandemic. This is what they tell me every day. But the single will be out, and so will the physical copies of Street Corner Chronicles. Very soon. They're not going to be on CD Baby's store, but they're going to be on Amazon, and they're going to be available for sale in my website and many different places.
And your website is what? Let people know what your website is.
Edwin Perez music.com.
Edwin Perez music.com.
Edwin Perez music.com. You could also reach out to me on Facebook. You could reach out to me on Instagram or Twitter, and we can make some arrangements. It's also available at El Barrio Music Center. I haven't checked with Ray. He just reopened, but I know he has my CDs. Casa Amadeo has the CDs as well. Unfortunately,
all right.
Record Mart.
So again, there are themes that you touch on in your music, and one is one where you recognize and acknowledge and applaud and support and urge and inspire los guerreros, the warriors, those who are out in the street making a difference as they are today, the young people, the diverse group of folks who are hitting the street every single day, not only here in the United States, but throughout the world, to make a change and to change society for better, ¿no?
Absolutely.
Esta canción es un ejemplo de la inspiración que tú le das a aquellos que están, y me hace recordar que hace un año atrás, Edwin, tú te recuerdas que en Puerto Rico, un país 100 por 35 archipiélago que incluye Isla Nena, etcétera, 3 millones de habitantes. Hemos pasado por Irma, María, la Junta, Promesa, ahora terremotos, y también pasamos por un momento un gobierno corrupto, la corrupción. Entonces un gobierno donde también no solamente piensa que son lo que tú acabas de decir, ¿no? Que ellos son la respuesta, sino que tienen una arrogancia de quiénes son y lo comparten entre ellos. Piensan ellos que lo están haciendo, oh, it's only us that know what we're saying about the people, but nobody else is going to find out. Boom, explota. And the fact that within 12 days, people hit the streets in Puerto Rico, and over 1 million hit the street on one particular day and caused the fall of a governor and his cabinet. And it was done peacefully, without bloodshed, without violence. Musicians played a big role. Women played a big role.
The youth
Played a tremendous role. And there's no going back. O sea, no hay manera que en Puerto Rico la juventud y los puertorriqueños hoy en día que hayan pasado por todo lo que han pasado, who are now enlightened. Como dice your hat right there, I'm going to get a little bit closer because I'll be the one to quote it, that way you won't get in trouble. Coño, boricua. Which is basically you're saying enough is enough. Wake up. Enough is enough. And so when you applaud guerreros, you're in a way saying we are all of us in this together, but we need to be, warriors, because this is a life and death situation. Your thoughts, please. Tu pensamiento.
Yeah. Cuando yo escribí Guerrero, precisamente, no sé si habías visto o habías escuchado esto en algún sitio, pero you went straight to the common denominator that inspired me for Guerrero. I wrote Guerrero thinking about my 100 by 35, and out of frustration more than anything, because I wrote Guerrero before the mass manifestations. Just as the emails were coming out, just as the whole mess was coming about, I wrote it out of sadness more than anything. Mucha tristeza por la isla, por mi gente, porque a través de las décadas siempre hemos tenido el hábito de poner toda nuestra fe en la misma gente que no se consideran parte de nosotros, aunque se ven igual que nosotros, viven entre nosotros, están entre nosotros, comen como nosotros y hablan como nosotros. Y por eso es la frase que dice, van y se educan, se refinan para venir a engañar al pueblo. Lamentablemente se puede sacar así con pinzas aquellos que, estando en la palestra pública, han vivido una vida en la cual han realmente logrado ayudar al pueblo. Y todavía la situación seguimos viéndola hasta el día de hoy porque las irregularidades no terminan. Pero a la misma vez yo quería escribir un tema que apelara no solamente al guerrero boricua, no solamente a la juventud y a las personas que estaban marchando, pero también que apelara a todo pueblo latinoamericano y del mundo que estaba pasando por una encrucijada en la cual tenían que decidir si estaban dispuestos a luchar y dar el todo por el todo para liberar a su pueblo o no. Se trata de apelar a la conciencia. Yo soy una persona que no cree en política. Yo no creo en políticos. Lo siento. Y detrás de todo el mensaje, ese era mi mensaje. No le des confianza a aquel que te viene a hablar con palabras bonitas y te dice que va a hacer el cambio. No es que no necesitamos un gobierno organizado, necesitamos donde quiera, Latinoamérica, Europa, todos necesitamos un gobierno organizado. Lo que no podemos permitirle es que gobiernen sin supervisión del pueblo. Sin supervisión de nosotros mismos. They have to answer to us. Politicians have to answer to the people. We cannot allow them to run roughshod as they many times do. And sometimes all that freedom and all that power also corrupts them. They come in with good intentions and they get corrupted. I'm not going to have the answers, but I can tell you that I understand what's part of the problem. And we have to make sure that the people that we hand power to are supervised and are held responsible for the decisions they make.
Yep, they'll be held accountable. I believe, Edwin, when you and your family went to sleep December 31st, 2019, thinking about 2020 and planning for the new year, little did you and millions of people around the world haven't thought that there would be a pandemic that would start and cause such a disruption all around the world on all facets of life. And little did you or I, celebrating Memorial Day, wake up or go to sleep that night thinking that a policeman would put a knee on George Floyd, which would cause his death, and his voice would be the voice that would inspire millions of people throughout the world with regards to Black Lives Matter, changing the paradigm of what we think of today. And there are moments in history where those things occur. And I go back to Puerto Rico last summer. Who would have thought, that 1 million people would be in a small island of 3 million people, a third of them would be on the street on one day under the sun, all throughout the island, San Juan,
all as one voice,
and La Isla, everyone on the street saying that tienes que ir, you've got to go.
That's right.
And you remember how they rejoiced when Rosselló announced he was leaving. Everybody was in La Plaza and everything. It changed. It was like surreal to see a real change like that.
We actually saw change.
Right? It happened. And to know that it happened with no bloodshed. You remember the tears, even the policemen and everything of that nature. It was like one of those transformative moments. And I kept saying to myself, if Puerto Rico can do that,
anybody can.
Right? Anybody can do it. If we could do it, a small island that everybody says no, porque, and we know the history of Puerto Rico, but yet we showed, especially the young people. That's how come I say all the time, and I go to sleep at night, Edwin, I go to sleep like, I'm going to be 70 years old come August 5th, and I'm still healthy, God willing, 70 years old, right? And I go to sleep with my wife, Divina, knowing in my heart that I have so much confidence in young people that they're going to basically change the world in this 21st century in ways that people had never imagined. And it's because this is their time and they know what they're doing and how to do it in ways that I never thought of and I never participated. And you see it today. You see it today. And they're diverse, they're united, they're clear about what they want to do. And the fact that music is still very much part of this movement says a lot. So the next song we're going to hear, la próxima canción que vamos a escuchar, se titula La Voz del Pueblo. Y viene de su disco, La Voz del Pueblo. How did that come about, my friend? ¿Cómo salió esa canción?
Yo estaba escribiendo ese álbum y me estaba dando cuenta que la letra los temas se estaban inclinando mucho a lo social. No lo voy a decir lo político porque no es político. Yo no estoy, mi música, como decía Ismael Rivera, mi música no está ni a la derecha ni a la izquierda. Está en el centro de un tambor legal. Pero me di cuenta y dije, bueno, maybe people are going to say, but who do you think you are that you got to be singing and writing about these things? And I said, well, I'm just one more voice. And if I have a platform, I'm going to use that platform to denounce those things that need to be denounced and to speak for the people that have no voice and have no platform. Y de ahí es que nace el tema de la canción La Voz del Pueblo. Te das cuenta en la letra, the first thing that I'm saying is, I'm not a lawyer, I'm not a politician, I don't go with any party, but I am a voice to the people.
Right.
And if I have this platform where I will have X amount of people listening to what I have to say and what I have to sing, I'm going to make it worthwhile. And that's, in essence, the meaning of the song.
I love it. Talk to us a little bit. There you invited Luisito Quintero to join you as a special guest, La Tumbadora. But who are the musicians you usually work with in your recordings and live?
Well, a very interesting trivia for that tune specifically is that in that tune estaba Luisito Quintero, estaba Jonathan Powell en la trompeta.
Trompetita de
sí. Entonces estaba Rey David Alejandre, el soldado, en el piano y en los trombones.
¡Wow! ¡Qué bien!
El piano y los trombones de ese track es Rey David.
El Rey David, el soldado, como dice
el
tú.
Soldado.
El soldado. Bueno, el soldado.
Músico bravo.
Presente. No, tremendo. Y aquí de nuevo el compadre dice, la voz del pueblo para el mundo. Así es, cierto.
También estuvo, en la producción estuvo Gilberto Colón, el Pulpo.
Ajá.
Un solo que hay que destacar, muy, muy, muy bravo, el estilo del Pulpo Colón en Mi Viejo. También, ¿qué más? Estuvieron como invitados en los coros Rubén Enríquez, Ángel Ríos y un servidor. Hicimos los coros.
No, it sounded great. So I'm going to put David Calvo's message up again because he says, your music here at home where he plays is dancing. It's spot on, but your commentaries let us know that the lyrics are a message to us, too, in the midst of us celebrating our culture through dance. So, one of the things that attracted me to your music and to you as an artist is I was a high school teacher when I first came to Boston after graduating from college. I was born in Puerto Rico, raised in Puerto Rico, went to the University of Puerto Rico, transferred to Antioch College in Yellow Springs, Ohio. And all of my students at that time, this was 1973. As you can imagine, I don't know how old you are, but in 1973, that was when, when salsa was just like booming. And these kids were so into our music, young teenagers. They were into music like kids must have been into rock and roll and kids were into rhythm and blues. So I can relate to what they were going through. And they knew everything about salsa. And I started using music as part of the pedagogy in the classroom. I first used film from Puerto Rico. Second year, I used video. And then the third year, I used my music collection, of which you can see in the back in my studio. And they were the ones that urged me to get out of the classroom to do radio 45 years ago. So I always owe to them the fact that I do radio. But the fact of the matter was that I understood that as much as music was for dancing, that there were songs that had messages that were just about love. There were a lot of love songs, right? And there were songs que era el baile, la rumba, y que sé yo qué más. But there were songs that had some meaningful messages that when you heard them, you say, wait a minute, time out, let me hear that again, because that has something to say, right? And I've said this story, how when I first heard Eddie Palmieri's Sentido, when it came out, before I did the radio show. I think it came out in 72 or something like that. The moment I heard it, Edwin, I said, if I ever am blessed to have a radio show, that's going to be my theme, Puerto Rico. Not knowing if I was going to have a radio show or not. Similar to you when you heard Tite Corret,
right.
Not knowing. I knew in my heart if I ever, and sure enough, it's been my theme song for 45 years. So what David is speaking to about what you bring in your music that is danceable, because it's rich. Esa moña ahí, that was a bad, that kicked ass. That was bad. I loved it. But at the same time, you're listening to the lyrics as you're dancing. You're saying, this guy is telling us something very special. These next two songs that are going to wrap it up, we're going to hear El Muro, The Wall, and then Mi Tierra. So when we come at the other side, I want you to talk about Mi Tierra. But quickly introduce this one, El Muro. El Muro, which is The Wall, which is off your new CD.
El Muro started as a campaign chant.
Mm-hmm.
And ended up being directly linked to having migrant children held in cages and separated from the parents, and people who had a legitimate reason to seek asylum, not only being denied that asylum, but being held indefinitely, not even in prison, but in cages, like animals. And I had to raise my voice in frustration for everything that we as Americans are allowing to happen. Because you know what? If your representative is not loud enough, he's allowing it to happen, and he's representing you. If you're not getting on his case, you are allowing it. And all the troubles that we're going through as a people here in the United States of America are coming from within the House of Power. And if any of those guys are representing you, and you don't go and knock on that office's door and request to speak to your representative or to your senator about these crimes, this abuse that our fellow brothers from down south, whether it's Central or South America, are going through, you're allowing it to happen. So I decided I was not going to allow it to happen, and I was going to raise my voice, and I was just going to directly single out who was doing that to us, and that's where El Muro comes from.
El Muro, The Wall. Edwin, I love everything you're doing.
Thank you.
Last song, of course, El Muro says it all. Mi Tierra brings pride to my heart. Cualquier persona, aunque no haya nacido en Puerto Rico, aquellos que no han nacido en Puerto Rico, ustedes saben que cuando escuchan una canción como esta, es de nuestra isla de encanto, Puerto Rico, nuestro terruño. En el caso mío, que nací en el viejo San Juan, para mí cuando yo escuché esta canción, it was like, oh man, he's singing to me, but you sing to everybody, of course. But I love what you've done. I wish you the very best.
Thank you.
Count on us here. Anything we could do, we're part of the ecosystem, my brother. We're part of the ecosystem. And I've always said that the ecosystem, you know, there's the bigger ecosystem, and then there's subsystems which include the environment, of course. There are you and I, human beings, and then there's, of course, the institutions. But we have to support each other if we're going to make things work. And it's important for me as a communicator to be able to support people who are doing work like you, especially independent artists, as it is important for the people who are watching us at this moment to do the same thing. So I am so happy we had a chance to spend with you. Let me look at these last greetings that people are sending you. Sintiéndose bien, Boricua, todo el mundo. I think you got some fans here, brother. Oh man!
Somebody was asking where they can get the music.
Yeah, they're asking you. Okay.
They can get it from iTunes. Actually, you can get the download from iTunes or from Amazon.
Okay.
You can get the physical CD because they ran out.
Okay.
And as I was explaining before, they will be up for sale again, but CD Baby closed the CD store, so
well,
that's to be determined.
And I'll make sure I announce to the people as well so that they know. Ya saben, pueden adquirir, digitalmente pueden adquirir las canciones de Edwin en iTunes o Amazon, pero el disco todavía
físico
no lo pueden conseguir hasta que CD Baby y otros lugares lo tengan. Pero no se preocupe que eso viene por ahí y lo tendrán en su mano. De cualquier manera, está aquí dice, I want CDs, please. All right, you'll get them.
Vienen.
They're coming along. Same thing in Florida. They want some CDs for the radio station down there. So we'll make sure that we make that connection happen.
Yes.
Pero de nuevo, Edwin, gracias. Que Dios te bendiga. Ya sabe que tiene un hermano aquí en Boston, como también tiene muchos más, el corillo de gente que hace en radio. Estoy seguro que darán el apoyo para ti. So, thank you so much. And last words that you want to share with me?
Absolutely.
You got the last words.
Thank you. Quiero agradecerte a ti, José, y quiero agradecerle a todas las personas que sintonizaron. Thanks to everybody that tuned in. It's a great pleasure to be with you. Thank you for supporting me. Thank you for supporting my music. And I'll keep doing what I'm doing as long as you keep listening.
Well, thank you so much. And we wish you the very best.
Thank you.
Again, Edwin Perez, nuestro invitado el día de hoy. Qué alegría que lo hayas tenido aquí. Pero no te preocupes, será la primera, pero no la última vez. Por favor, que no sea la última vez. All right? We'll make sure we do it again. Looking forward to seeing you. God bless you, man. Thank you.
Thank you. God bless
Gracias. Y saluda a tu sobrinita.
Claro que sí, está ahí arriba corriendo, me parece un ferrocarril.
Nos vemos entonces, cuídate.
Hasta luego, gracias.
Mi hermano. Okay.